core stability. Core stability is one of the most overlooked aspects of physical fitness. Today we've got this marketing system all around the fitness industry, and we're focusing on looks and getting big and trimming weight. But what a lot of physical fitness comes down to is pelvic stability. Now I'm gonna say this: pelvic stability is core stability. This I cannot overemphasize enough. If you don't have pelvic stability, you're just not going to be able to perform at the top level that you want to be able to perform at. Whether you're a skier, a soccer player, a football player, maybe you do weekend competitions, these adventure races like Spartan and Tough Mudder. Whatever it is that you want to do, you've got to build core stability, because that's going to translate to injury prevention, which is going to save you lots of money and time. And it's also going to translate to a higher performance. With good core stability, we're going to have better balance, flexibility, coordination, endurance, speed, and strength. And these things, when all combined together, they're going to give you the agility, the power, the explosiveness, everything that you need to take yourself to the next level, beat competition, and prevent injury. Now, let's get to the first thing. What is core stability? What is pelvic stability, right? I mean, what does that even mean? So let me just draw you a picture here. I've got kind of a spine here, and the spine starts, down at the hips, and it curves back, and this is your lumbar spine, in the low back, and then it curves back up, and this is your thoracic spine. This is around your lungs and your shoulders. And then it reverses its curve, and here we have our cervical spine, our neck and stuff. So what happens with anterior pelvic tilt is we get really tight hip flexors, and that pulls our hips forward. So the hip flexors actually, some of them attach right on this lumbar spine here, and they pull that spine forward, tilting our hips forward. And when this happens, our low back gets tight as well. And so we get the most common complaints. We have pulled hip flexors and low back pains. These are the most common injuries I see on a daily basis. The other part of this, what you have here, these are overreactive. And then up here, this is kind of where your core muscles are, and these get lengthened and they get weak. So if you think of like a bicep, right? If you're down here and you're fully extended, you don't have much strength. So what you want to do is, once you get up into this area, that's where you have the most amount of strength. If your core muscles are overextended from anterior pelvic tilt, they can't even activate. So you really can't even activate your core. Yeah, you can activate your abdominal crunches and stuff, but that's not going to give you the spinal stability and the pelvic stability that you need. The other part is we get lengthened glute and hamstring muscles. So that creates the other side of the X here. And we got lower cross syndrome. So another most common injury I get with pelvic instability is hamstring tears, either a torn muscle or just a muscle spasm or a tight spasm. So the problem with this, you think, okay, so we've got hip flexors, low back, and hamstring pains, but it's worse than that. What we get is, when we get this kind of imbalance here, the back curves even more, and what that causes is it causes a compensation curve in the thoracic spine, and then you start to have trouble breathing, you get upper back tightness, your shoulders, they get out of alignment, and you start to get biceps and impingement issues, and then the cervical spine reacts to that, and now you're getting forward head posture, you're going to get upper trap spasms and headaches and all sorts of other problems. So that's the top of the line. Now we talk about down into the lower body. It's the same predictable cycle. And what you get is, when the hips turn forward, your femurs internally rotate. That's the big bones right here. And that's going to cause stresses on all of your hip muscles, especially the rotating ones. And then when they internally rotate, your knees come into the middle. And so now you've got knees in the middle, and your patellas might start to get some chondromalacia, or grinding on your femur. You might get some ITBS, iliotibial band syndrome, on the side of your knee. So then we're having all sorts of knee pains. It also puts you at risk for higher ACL injury, and we don't really want that. And then we go even farther down, and the tibia and the fibula, which are your shin bones, they internally rotate. So then we've got an arch of our feet drop, and now we're looking at shin splints up and down, inside and outside of our legs. We're going to get running injuries in our feet, and you can see how just a little bit of tightness here and instability here is going to cause problems up and down our entire bodies. All right, moving on. How do we fix this? You know, what do we need to do? I have a system that I learned in my master's program. I'm an athletic trainer. I work with athletes, injuries, anything you can think of. I've worked with it. The first step is going to be you have to address the symptoms. I mean, I don't know how well you can read this, but symptoms, that's the pain. If you're in pain, you're not going to be able to activate the muscles that you need to do the rehabilitation process properly. So get rid of the pain. You can use ice or anti-inflammatory drugs. I'm not really a fan of those. Those are kind of old school thinking. I'm more a fan of using heat and ginger and ginseng and food to lower inflammation and decrease pain. You can use creams, things like Topricin cream. It's a really good healing cream to use. Second step, mobility. Mobility, we're talking the ability of joints to move, the abilities of muscles to flex. You have to work the mobility. Like I said, if the core muscles if they're overstretched, if they're not in their correct position, they won't be able to contract, and then you won't be able to develop any core stability. So that's not going to work out. So we need to do foam rolling and some movement stretches, some dynamic warm-ups. All these things are important for maintaining and developing proper core stability. Once we build up our mobility, then we can hit stability. Stability, I mean the ability to activate these core muscles, so draw-ins where you suck your belly button to your spine, pelvic tilts, we actually do exercises where we're tilting our pelvis forward and backwards. And then we can, once we've mastered those, then we move on to exercises like the bridge or the plank, and throughout all of these, you have to be able to maintain this pelvic alignment. And lastly, we're talking about function. The functional movement is the ability to do complex exercises through a full range of motion without injury or fatigue. So for these exercises, we call them advanced movement exercises because these are not just lifting weights or like squatting or bench press, because those, yeah, they're important, but they don't work the whole body through a full range of motion, and they don't require core activation. I mean, if you're lying down, how much core activation do you need? So what we do is we do complex motions that involve the whole body, that hit balance, flexibility, coordination, endurance, speed, and strength. And if you can do these exercises, then you'll be able to compete in any sport and develop all the core stability needed to be able to perform at an elite level of competition. Once you master pelvic stability, everything else will become easier. Whether you're running, jumping, sprinting, swimming, whatever it is you want to do, core stability is the most important part. If you want to know more, then check out the links under this video. We've got a link to my book. It's called The Modern Athlete. It gives advanced techniques for developing core stability, injury prevention, and performance enhancement. Follow our Facebook page, check out the Twitter, and especially our Instagram. We're posting videos of the exercises we do every week. And go to the website and click subscribe, and you'll get a weekly, monthly update that's going to give you everything you need to know as far as intro to athletic development, nutrition strategies, recovery strategies. It's a lot of good stuff in there. And if you have any questions or comments, post here or on any of our social media sites.